Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalat, wassalam, rasulullah. Welcome to We Are All OK Wednesday. We're going to do a bit of a different session today. Um, a Someone recently joined the community saying they struggled with CPTSD. In fact, until we saw that, I didn't even know that there was a version where there was a C in front of the PTSD. And I'm currently studying with a psychiatrist. And one of the books that we are studying is called Beyond Diagnosis, which is essentially a whole book of case studies of all the different mental illnesses and how this understanding that we're teaching at Back to the Fitra, in the form that it's taught out there by the non-Muslims, they call it the three principles, how this has been the solution, the cure, the resolution, whatever way you want to explain it, of the mental illness. And the book has, in it, we've got depression, we've got dysthymia, there's what else? Mood disorders, body dysmorphia, anorexia. It's got all sorts of things that I don't even, borderline personality disorder, some things I don't even know about and I will be studying it, inshallah. So what I decided to do was to start with one of the case studies on CPTSD, to open up the minds that the cure to mental illness for everybody can be one thought away. And when we say that, most people feel that we're minimizing the suffering that they're going through, or that it's not real. And especially if they have been going through various forms of therapy and medication and all of these types of things. So I've just picked one of the short case studies because there's quite a lot of case studies, and they're quite, many of them are quite long. And I will read it as it is in here. And of course, it's not about a Muslim. This book isn't filled with case studies that are Islamic case studies. It's more to really emphasize the importance of the work we're doing at Back to the Fitra as the prevention and cure of mental illness in our ummah. So this particular case study is labeled Federico. It's someone from Italy. I had three major moments of trauma in my life, in reverse order: being attacked in a bar, resulting in a double fractured skull, and being unconscious for 4 days. The after effects took years to correct themselves for me to feel close to normal again. Being attacked by a knife in my late teens, leaving a large scar on my forehead. But it was growing up in a house where I witnessed extreme violence, being sexually and psychologically abused, all within my own home by different members of the household, that I had no support and nowhere to feel safe to go. I felt lonely, often wondering if this was the same hidden life everyone experienced, realizing it wasn't, and wondering what was wrong with me, something that stuck with me all my life. As did a complete breakdown of self-belief that became a continuous battle of achieve and destroy. I had a lot of success, but never felt it internally. I've always struggled with relationships or understanding what a friend is, how to trust, always full of anger, frustration. In my teens, I was extremely rebellious. I wanted revenge on the world, and combined with my lack of self-belief, it felt like there was nothing I could achieve anyway. This was in a constant juxtaposition with having such an unusual skill set. I achieved extremely high at school when I tried, and every report was about how I was wasting unusual talents. My English teacher in the first year of high school said I reminded her of her favorite author. I felt such hope and wonder only to have that destroyed by the people at home who mocked me and the teacher. I was and am very naive at times, so I took the negative. Everything changed in my 20s as I moved thousands of kilometers away to London and was promoted 11 times in 7 years, breaking records for being the most senior person in my role by 4 years in the history of a 100,000 employee company. I felt some gratification from that, but like everything in life, I found it too easy. I'd buried the past in the back of my mind, which led me into a life of having too much money, too young, and a strong drug habit, which ironically was only fully put to bed after I fractured my skull. The attack that led to my skull fracture caused extreme anxiety, which then led to endless, sometimes multiple panic attacks a day. I tried psychoanalysis until I got tired of talking over and over about being abused. I tried hypnosis, mindfulness, and coaching, but they didn't help. What helped me to stop the flashbacks of the childhood abuse was studying and learning a number of different academic disciplines, but the PTSD and the feelings inside still remained. I was introduced to the three principles. So this is the psychological understanding that we teach through an Islamic perspective at Back to the Fitra by a business colleague. He heard me talking about my chronic pain and suggested I talk with his coach, Chana Studley. So that's the author of the book. So this is one of her students, or I mean, one of her clients. From the first moment of interaction with her, I knew I had found something different. I found the ideas she shared with me remarkable. I have an open and curious mind despite the issues I faced, and so learning about this new paradigm in psychology was groundbreaking for me. When I was 29, I started my own business studying how society and academia operate, but always found it had gaps in it. The three principles filled those gaps. She offered me something that was not stuck defending itself as a singular academic discipline and instead something that cut through all of them. Now that's my kind of disruption. The logic and knowledge were enjoyable to grasp. Even dealing with the existing pain I carried, it came with a degree of humor, not feeling defeated or unsolvable like it used to be. Being told you are one thought away from being free and changing your perception might seem hard for anyone not familiar with the principles or open to change, especially for people who believe they're carrying trauma. But it wasn't hard. I was guided well. Then the moment came. I was in floods of tears and my one thought arrived. When they talk about one thought, I guess another way of describing it is an insight. And these insights come from Allah. You know, Allah is Al Shafi. He is the cure. And when we have an insight, we see things differently and everything can shift. And for some, they might have a multitude of little insights and things change. For others, like this person here, you can have a big insight and massive things can change all in a moment. So his one thought arrived. If I gave myself, I would never have thought something so simple, especially if I'm honest about myself and my defensive, alert mind and perception due to past abuse, could mean so much and lock in immediately. It was calmly liberating. Imagine feeling calm at such a moment of release. Made a lot of sense then and now. I'd been anything but calm until that point. That was how I knew it was real and didn't just believe the change. I owned it. I was changed for good deeply. I also let myself be free to not think about the one thought, not challenge it, just leave it be and see how it processes and changes me. This is also something people find very challenging, is to just allow it, not analyze it, critique it, figure it out. Just allow it, because if Allah is blessing you with a gift, then you just openly accept it and allow that gift to unfold the way it's meant to. Alhamdulillah. I now see the freedom is within. That perception is reality. All these phrases are true. I now feel and know it to be so. Today I am free. My sense of self grows. My understanding of self grows. And above all else, my self-punishing thinking loops that I thought were put inside my head by others are gone. My mantra, the wonder of nothingness, is the something of everything. I think you could probably do um, uh, lots of mind circles around that statement. I am now not only free to be the master of my own destiny, but to believe it. Obviously, a non-Muslim, because we probably wouldn't word things that way as a Muslim. But anyhow, I mean, I think what they're saying is when you are believing that you're carrying trauma and it looks like you have no control or say over the way you respond to the world and what's happening in it, or what's happening around you, um, it feels helpless. And so when I read those words, I look beyond those words, beyond the non-Islamicness of them, to understand that what this person is saying is that they actually feel like they can make good choices now. Like they're freed from that hopelessness of it being out of their control, out of their power to feel okay, that everything is happening to them and that's the way it is for them, right? So it's the shift away from defeated thinking into being able to make choices, make good choices. I think that's the shift that's really being described here. That comes from now having strong self-belief, which prior to the principles kept me down. In the past, I would achieve and it would mean nothing, or I would even make it worse. Compliments were poisonous. Now it feels like many years ago, it feels silly that it was me, not silly in a negative way, more that I am free, so free. How could I have let people control me for so long? Well, it's it's not that we let, that's an illusion that people are even controlling us. So how can we live in the illusion of feeling controlled by people? I have always been a high achiever, but now I enjoy it and continue to study. I hold principles books close as quick reminders of self and being all I can be and letting go of what does not serve me. My curiosity is the something of everything, and I do it without fear. I accept who I am and I've changed a lot. I've taken away perceptions, chosen to lose friends who were not supportive, healthy for me, or I'd outgrown. I realize where I stand in life and I look forward to a future with an incredibly deeper and stronger bond with my wife. I had separated at the time I discovered the principles and was on the brink of divorce. Amazingly, we were both guided to see the principles in all areas of our lives and instinctively started to see the health in each other and feel the deep love we had for each other again. We are now celebrating our 10th anniversary. I know not everyone is ready for help, but I encourage people to seek out this principles understanding. It's not change, it's not fear, it's just what you perceive that is holding you back. What harm can one private chat have when all else in therapy is designed to make you follow a fixed path versus the principles freeing you to find find and walk your path. Sorry about my reading. It's fun and life-changing. Why wouldn't you? And I can completely relate to this story. Not quite so much the level of trauma, but I went through a lot of traumatic experiences myself as a child, and I wouldn't describe myself as having CPTSD, and I never was diagnosed particularly, but I did have behavior patterns that were running. They were kind of my my protective behavior patterns, things that were there, they were childish because they started developing when I was a child, but they were childish behavior patterns that were there to protect me from my own imagination, actually, because most of the time, it's the way it's the things where I mean, it's always the things we're thinking about that we're experiencing, but we don't realize how much we are creative beings and creating the fearful view of the world that leaves us trapped, and it looks like we're carrying trauma, but in fact, what we're actually doing is living in fearful thinking and not understanding our experience, not understanding that just one thought can make a difference. And just like this person had their aha moment, I had two aha moments in May 2016. So nearly 10 years ago. Next May, it'll be 10 years. It was two different big insights in the same month. The first one, I can't even tell you what the moment was or anything. It was just that I was having a deep immersion in learning about this understanding. And I was having a deep immersion because I had promised a group of sisters I was going to teach them what I learned. And I panicked because I didn't feel like I could articulate what it is I'd learned. And so had a week or so where I was immersed in reading and listening and having sessions with my mentor at the time to make sure I understood it so I could teach it. And somewhere in all of that, something shifted in the way I saw things. Because after I taught the class, which was a terrible class, I felt tired for a few days. And in those few days, I kept having naps. And after I'd sort of recovered, and that can be how it is after you've had a big insight, is you feel tired because the work our brain does in reevaluating our experiences or our memories or do all the housekeeping that needs to be done when we realize that something is different to the way we had perceived it to be, happens when we're asleep. And so that I really believe that tiredness is leading us to needing that extra sleep to do that extra processing. So once that sleepiness was over, there was just a clarity. It's like I'd spent my whole life wearing someone else's glasses. And so I was seeing everything in a really distorted way. And now I'd taken the glasses off and I could see clearly. You know how it is when, you put someone else's prescription glasses on and it makes everything all out of focus. It all came into focus. And the only way I can describe the feeling of it was it was a very elated feeling. It was a very freeing feeling, like he was describing in that case study. Um, but it just felt like fearless confidence that I didn't need to fear Allah's creation. And at the end, I think the way I ended up describing the experience was it's like the collapse of the ego, like the ego just got out of the way. Now, you don't stay in that state, by the way. You're forever changed by that insight. But in terms of that elated state where you're just in this amazing, it's just hard to even describe the feeling. You don't stay in that state constantly because more thinking comes up and more stories come up and we get into our, crazy perceptions again. But now at a higher level, like you don't go back to where you were. You've reached another level of clarity. I'm going to call it clarity because I don't want it to sound like it's a hierarchical thing and somehow you're better than anyone else, because that's not this journey at all. It's like the peeling of an onion, it's like a layer has been removed. That layer never comes back on, but more layers surface. And so you can go back into feeling foggy or stuff, but it's not because you've gone backwards and you haven't benefited or grown from that previous insight. It's just, another layer has come to the surface, another story has come to the surface. And so interestingly, in that same month, about a couple of weeks later, I had another insight, which was that like chipped away another massive chunk of stories. And I can't tell you that, oh, it fixed this or it changed that. Like there's no specifics to this. It's not like therapies and all these other modalities where you're kind of working away and chipping at one thing. It's about a general understanding growing so that all things start falling away. And so you can't even necessarily describe, oh, this has been resolved and that has been resolved. You just know that you're showing up differently and that old patterns aren't kicking in anymore. And so it's very difficult to give specifics around it other than that you can see it clearer. You feel more, confident in yourself and your direction in life. And that's a confidence that's not arrogance. It's not arrogance, it's a confidence. It's the self-confidence that Allah created us with that gets lost under stories because those stories have fallen away. That natural self-confidence has emerged. And there's a resilience, there's an ability to be patient with the first strike of calamity. Um, and then there are times when, well, okay, there is obviously still some layers there because something happened or someone said something, and now I'm not feeling in that state for the moment. I'm feeling wonky. And that's okay too, because it's like, well, okay, there's still stories there. This is like a lifetime journey, and we're always having these insights, and these insights are bringing us to clearer and clearer thinking, clearer and clearer connection with Allah. And it's like a falling away of the old, falling away of what is not helpful. So under one of the things that my teacher, Dr. Bill Pettit, who, as I said, I'm studying his intensive right now. We've got a 9-month intensive with him where we're going through all the different mental illnesses and understanding them through this perspective that we teach here at Back to the Fitra. And his language is, he uses different words, but his language fits perfectly with our Islamic teachings. He is a believer in God. He's Christian, but not Muslim. But the way he expresses himself is so in alignment with our understanding, and so very easy to learn from and to understand what he's teaching through from an Islamic perspective. And I was going to say, he says something really important, and because I got into explaining too much, that important thing flipped out of my mind. Just like a thought bubble popping. It'll come back to me. It was something important he says that really, really makes it so simple. And we're talking about somebody who has worked with some of the most extreme cases, and he has seen the miraculous change in them. Ah, yes, this is what he says. He says that when we understand how the system works, then we become healthy because we no longer fear it. And so what he does and what we do at Back to the Fitra is share with you how it works. And as you gradually understand how it works through insights, maybe one at a time, maybe all at once, depending how Allah blesses you with the insights, you just come back to your innate state of well-being, your innate state of healthy thinking. We were all born healthy. And I'm not talking about physical health now. I'm talking about in terms of, the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us all perfectly. And sure, we're all different with different strengths and weaknesses and all of these sorts of things. That's all part of it. And that's all part of this test in this life. But in terms of having the gift of thought and the ability to use the gift of thought in a healthy way, we all have that. And the narrative that we've been hearing, especially in this era, and especially now that we can get information overload through TikTok and Instagram and all of these things, is what is leading us to unhealthy thinking. Even our schooling has led us to unhealthy thinking. The way people have expressed things to us when we were little and unable to discern the difference in what they're saying and know what to accept and what to reject has led us to unhealthy thinking. But every single one of us can come back to using the gift of thought in a healthy way. And it just takes insight, which is a gift from Allah, and a gift that the best way forward is to make dua to Him first and foremost, and then take your journey to understanding how the system works so you stop fearing it. And that's the solution to mental illness. Mental illness is just using the gift of thought in an unhealthy way. But when you hear it as using the gift of thought in an unhealthy way, it feels much lighter and much more hopeful than the label mental illness, doesn't it? If it's just simply using the gift of thought in a healthy way and learning how that works and having tawakkul, trust in Allah, that, sorry, I should have that on silence. Having trust in Allah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who will give you the insights you need when you need them. You can see this life as an adventure, the ups and the downs of it. You can embrace yourself, the good, the bad, and the ugly of yourself, right? Without judgment, with accountability, but without judgment. From a place of accountability comes good action forward towards Allah. From judgment comes defeat. So which do you prefer, right? SubhanAllah. So anyway, that was my little story from the book is called Beyond Diagnosis, and it's basically the whole book is, I don't know quite how many. It's not numbered for me to be able to tell, but it's tens, maybe even up to 100 or so different case studies, all of serious mental illnesses that people have recovered and come back to well-being through understanding how it works. SubhanAllah. And it's including in here even different physical ailments. Well, I was just noticing the Joe Bailey story about Lyme's disease. I'm aware of that because I've heard him tell that story. But there's even here fibromyalgia, tinnitus, central obstructive and central sleep apnea. It's interesting that these sorts of things might be. But it's also, yeah, so many different things that the modern mental health system really paints the picture of hopelessness, that these are lifelong conditions that are going to require therapy and medication and long-term management. And this is a whole book of stories that show that that's actually not true. Alhamdulillah. So alhamdulillah for the blessing of this understanding. Alhamdulillah. Does anyone we do need to wrap up in a minute because I've spoken a long. I usually wrap up quicker, but I was a bit talkative today. Does anyone have any questions or doubts around what I shared? Assalamu alaikum, Wanda. Good to see you.
WeRallOK Salam. How are you?
Good, alhamdulillah. Good to see you.
You too. I'm there's one person in my life that's very important to me, my mum. She's struggling very, very much and always has with severe anxiety that really disables her on a daily basis. And I've kind of inadvertently tried to coach her through just through questioning and listening. And she's so hopeless,
Mm-hmm.
as in doesn't have hope in getting better. And she says in Arabic, "Mish bi'idi," which is, it's not in my hands. It's not in my hands. This is how I am. I can't help this.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard for me. I'm in the car outside her house now. Um, just to watch her constantly unravel and struggle, and um,
Do you know
she's in
that,
pain.
yeah, do you know that the thought that is the biggest barrier to her well-being is that thought that you just said? By her believing that that's how she is, that how she is, and she has no say in that,
Yeah,
that one thought is her barrier to well-being.
yeah, yeah,
Now, the thing with a belief is you can't convince somebody not to believe something. They have to have evidence that comes from a more reliable source, or is perceived as more reliable than whatever evidence it was that they collected to believe that original belief, for that belief
yeah,
to change. And so all you can do is show her how it works and hope that one day, make dua and hope that one day Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals to her something where she sees the truth of it, and that old belief can be just one thought away from being gone. Like that's what makes it so hopeful. Like if you get caught up in the idea that she's set in that belief and start to feel hopeless yourself, you're not seeing the well-being that's possible in her, that is still there in her behind that one belief. And it only takes one thought, one insight
yeah.
from Allah for that belief to be completely shattered in one moment, and for her to go from the condition she's currently in into a healthy condition, just like that. And that is what Allah is absolutely capable of. And so we live in that tawakkul and hope and husnul dhan billah, that our role is simply to speak the truth, live the truth, make passionate dua for them, and then we have to leave the rest to Allah.
Yeah,
But you
100%
can't give
right.
up hope, because if
Yeah.
you give up hope on her well-being, then you can't help her. You're actually enabling her belief then.
I will never give up, no matter how old she is. I will never give up. She thinks she's the exception. Like she says to me, "You've changed so much. I used to have panic attacks, all the sort of things that she experiences. But for me, it's different. For me, and then the stories come up again.
But
But
you know how egotistical that is? I mean, what makes one of us more special than another that we can't be fixed, right?
there's that self-loathing that's there, and she's 75. It's just, and the stories are so deep, but I still feel I call it Musa moments, alayhi salam, like when he, hit the staff with the, sorry, hit the ocean with the staff. Like anything is possible.
Yeah.
But it's just hard to watch, Catherine,
Yeah.
because you don't want to be preachy. You don't want to every third conversation to be like that. Most of the time, I'm just listening and just showing up.
So one of the things that we learned in the certification that is um, something to reflect on, not to try and do, but just reflect
Yep,
on it so that it naturally comes out of you, is
yep,
curious questions.
yeah, yep.
Because curious questions are far more
Mhm.
powerful than telling anything. So if you and Allah's the one who's the source of these questions, by the way, not us. That's why I don't want you to try and think about it. I just
Yep.
want you to remember the curious questions, because sometimes we can get into, okay, I'm not going to say anything, I'm just going to listen. But it could well be that just the right question may be exactly what shatters that belief, because when she reflects on that question, it's like, oh, I can see that's not true now.
For herself rather than someone telling her. Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
But
yep,
that's how it's going to be. It's not going
yep.
to be someone telling her. It's going to be
Yes,
she sees
you're
it.
right. You're right. Yes.
So
Beautiful advice.
yeah.
Excellent advice.
So
Yes.
don't
And just let it
don't
just naturally marinate. If it comes out, a
yeah.
question comes out, it
So,
comes out. It's,
yeah.
yeah,
And if it doesn't, and you've
yep,
just got silence, stay in the silence,
yep.
because it means it's not the right moment.
Love you, Catherine.
You love you too.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. I actually feel lighter right now. Thank
Mm.
you. I have to go, but assalamu alaikum. Nice to see you.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Great to have you here, Wanda.
Thank
Do we need to get evidence to make the old belief go away? No, you see, Abdul Bari, you always trying to fix things. Like I just said with Wanda right now, for in ourselves or in others, it's going to come from Allah, right? It's not going to come from us. Of course, we continue to go on our journey of growth. We continue to learn the truth about life and Islam, which are also one and the same, really. And we continue that journey with the full hope and belief and trust that at any time Allah can remove from us any beliefs that are unhealthy, unhelpful, and replace them with something that is helpful. And maybe that is the dua that you make. Oh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remove from me any beliefs that are unhealthy, unhelpful, and replace them with the truth. Replace them, because these unhealthy, unhelpful beliefs are not true. They're things that we see as true, but they're not true. We've latched onto them. We're carrying them. If someone's saying they're carrying trauma, they're really carrying one of these beliefs, something that they've taken out of that experience, and they're carrying it around with them like it's the truth. And oftentimes, that heaviness that they're carrying around, um, that feels like they're carrying around trauma, is in fact brought to them through the mental illness industry. Sorry, the mental health industry. I nickname it the mental illness industry. When they say to people that you're going to, this is what you're going to have to manage for the rest of your life. And so they believe that because it's somebody um, who has um, supposedly the expertise. And so it becomes their belief that this is the way their life is. And so then, just like Wanda was saying, her mum believes that's the way it is. These people go into that defeat of this is the way it is. Defeat is a very heavy feeling to carry around. Defeated thinking is very heavy. Um,
I think I might have misheard because if I heard correctly, you said that her mom was collecting kind of this evidence for her story, and now she has to have new evidence to have new belief. Or did I mishear that?
Yeah, she has to have new evidence, but it's not for us to go and find the evidence. That's just a way of explaining it. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals to her the truth and she sees it as an insight, that is the new evidence. Now, how that comes about, only Allah knows. It might come about through a different expert telling us something, and then we realize, oh, it's been wrong. It can come about like one of my big insights with my mum yelling at me and saying stuff and me looking at her going, what on earth is she talking about? And seeing separate realities. It can come through so many different ways, but you don't go looking for it because you don't even know what you're looking for, Abdul Bari.
All right, right. The evidence is very personal. It depends from a person to another.
Yes, that's right. So we don't go, it's about, we know that that's what I'm describing there is we know that the barrier is that this person has this belief, and unless they get evidence that that belief is not correct, then they're going to hang on to that belief because that's what they believe. But that doesn't mean that we come bringing all the evidence. It's not our job. It might be, but it'll be guided by Allah, and it won't be because we've gone and researched it in a very intellectual manner. It'll be because, for instance, maybe Wanda goes in now to speak to her mum, and because we've just reminded her of curious questions, because she did the certification last year, right? That she's just sitting there, and instead of all of her thinking that she's had about how sad it is looking at my mum like this, she's just actually grounded, and a thought pops into her head, and she says to her mum a question, and then her mum goes, oh yeah, and that could be it. I mean, it might not be, but I'm saying that is a possibility because that is how it can happen. There's so many stories. There's so many stories. The Lyme's disease one, like I said, Joe Bailey's Lyme's disease one, he was diagnosed with Lyme's disease, right? It's a physical condition. He went on a retreat because he understands that caring for yourself is the best way to be cured from physical ailments. And of course, the retreat was with people who have this understanding. And as he was telling them why he was there, he kept saying, I have Lyme disease. I have Lyme disease. And he was, trying to do all this meditation because he's, I think, from, he's a psychologist. I know he's not the one that's from Buddhist background. I'm not sure what background he's from anyway, but doing all this type of practice and stuff that was meant, to help him be mindful. But it took just one of his friends who said, you don't have Lyme's disease. You're experiencing Lyme's disease at the moment. Just a reframe. That's all he needed. That's all he needed. When he went back home, went back to the doctors, it was gone.
Subhanallah.
So you don't know. You don't know what you need. That's why you let go of trying to fix it, Abdul Bari, and allow Allah to give you what you need. And that's why you turn to dua and ask Allah to resolve it for you.
But I feel like, let's say in that example, if we do see a well-being in somebody, right, and that person has very deep defeated thinking, how do you deal with that? Because as you said, defeated thinking is like one of the deepest thinkings and emotions and hardest things to come over,
There's no recipe. We don't deal with anything. Our role in life with everybody is to be as grounded as possible as we can. And if Allah guides us to say something helpful, we say it. And if Allah doesn't guide us to say something or do something helpful, we don't do anything. Right? You keep looking for recipes. There's no recipes.
I see.
The biggest shift for you, Abdul Bari, is when you stop looking for recipes. When you just come to a state of submission and acceptance.
Right.
So there is a question here that I really do need to address, and then I do need to wrap up because we've gone quite over time. The question is, someone in their family has a long time back. or she had a long time back had a car accident. It's affected her spine, some chemical reaction that doesn't let her think right. Are these things possible that now she's diagnosed with schizophrenia? So here's the thing. What you've described there is maybe what is clinically going on for her, right? And if treated in a clinical way and only addressed in a clinical way, then most likely that is the way she will stay. But if it is approached from a psycho-spiritual, which is what we're talking about when we're talking about what we teach it back to the Fitra, what my teacher who's a psychiatrist teaches, the psychological part is how our psychology works, and the spiritual part is how Allah is al-Shafi, the one who cures, right? What this psychiatrist, and psychiatrists are the ones who diagnose and manage schizophrenia. They're what he says is it is our thinking that creates the chemical imbalances, and it is our thinking that can bring them back on track. And so what he has shared and he has witnessed is that people who have chemical imbalances or things that are not working right chemically, that without medication and through this understanding, their chemistry has all come back into balance and they haven't needed medication. Now, if she has something where there's some reason with her injury that it's, preventing things working effectively, then it may well be that she has a challenge and may not perhaps be, because there may be a physical, biological reason why she can't necessarily access that natural balance, Allahu alim. But in terms of her quality of life and her body's ability to adjust and manage this new condition that it is in, understanding how it works will definitely help. But I can't say, because it would be wrong of me to say she can be cured of that or cured of this, because that is not in my hands, and nor is that my qualification to say. But there are so many miraculous stories that it makes it very hopeful, at the very least, for her to have a better quality of life. And the problem that she may have, that may have perhaps maybe giving her a lower quality of life, is she may have been told that this is the way it's always going to be. And so just like the question with Wanda's mum, she's got that belief, okay, this is how it is, right? This is the challenge we have with what is being said, and where I was saying about the gift of healthy versus unhealthy thinking. Believing that another human being can tell you that this is the way it is for the rest of your life is actually a form of unhealthy thinking, because no human actually can predict the future. Yes, based on their knowledge, which is only limited. It's not as vast as the knowledge of Allah, of course, because that is the all-encompassing knowledge. It may look like that to them, and they may innocently be saying this to their patients because every patient they've dealt with, that's been the outcome. And so in their mind, they believe that to be true, and so they're passing that belief onto that person. But the power of healthy thinking is that all power and might is with Allah. And if it is written for someone to be cured, no one can stop that. And if it is written for someone to always have this test as their test in this life, no one can change that. So the thinking, the healthy thinking is always coming back to Allah and having husnul than billah and always believing that there is hope in it. But it's a it's hard to describe. It's not the sort of hope that sets you up for disappointment when it doesn't happen. It's the sort of hope that keeps you going in a very constructive, positive way, where it's a balance between hope and acceptance. I don't know any other way of it. Like, words are very deficient when it comes to explaining what I'm trying to explain right now. So I'm doing my best with the words I have. So don't take the words literally. Try and look beyond the words to see what I'm trying to say. Inshallah. Go ahead, Anas.
Yeah, subhanallah. I didn't think I was going to talk, but it just what you were saying. And, some of you might have heard it, but like my daughter has a very severe disability, spinal muscular atrophy, and doctors told me she would not live beyond 4 years of age. She wouldn't survive childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived with that thought, thought come feelings come from thought in the moment, and I lived with that for many years. And so many times I thought she'd die because I was told every time she'd have a cold, it's life-threatening. And indeed, many times she did look like she died, and maybe was clinically dead for a few moments or whatever. But it's only Allah,
Mm.
it's
And
only
look,
in Allah's hands,
and
subhanallah.
look at how much anxiety and stress they put on you with those words.
Yeah, yeah. And it wasn't until, and then after she was 4 and she reached that milestone, I'm like, "Halas, I'm not going to listen to them." And then again, when she was 10, they told me she'd have a year to live. And there was evidence, that she's only got 15% lung function and it's reducing every year. So I believed that evidence. I mean, it was hard evidence, her lung function was decreasing 10 to 15% a year, and she was only on 15%. So mathematically, she only had a year or two to live at the most. But subhanAllah, that was not
She's
Allah's
still
will.
here, and she's still here with us now, mashallah.
She's here. She's 34 now. They gave her 4 years. She's 34. She's contributed so much to the world
She's an
and
amazing
to our
woman.
lives. And so, yeah, sometimes medical labels or diagnosis or prognosis can put us in a state that we believe it and take it as a fact. And I like what you said about having hope, and it's tawakkul. Tawakkul in Allah doesn't mean you don't stop looking for a solution, or but you don't live in the fear. You're not gripped by that fear or hopelessness. And recently, I don't know if you saw it, but there was something on social media about a psychiatrist who went to some mental asylums. He did an experiment, and him and I think there were 9 of them in total. They admitted themselves into a mental institution, and they didn't, they just didn't, they didn't say what they had. They just went in, and then I think 8 out of 9 of them were diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Oh, yes. So, yes, I saw that. Basically, what they did is an experiment. They sent in 9 perfectly healthy, mentally healthy people, and the hospital diagnosed 8 out of 9 of them with quite serious mental illnesses and put them on medication.
Yeah, and they wouldn't let them out until they wouldn't discharge them until they agreed to continue taking the medication.
Yeah.
They couldn't convince them that they're well.
Yeah, exactly. SubhanAllah. And the other video that's been going around recently is an interview with a number of different psychiatrists, all in this contemporary psychiatric world, using the current methods out there. And they were asked the question, have any of their patients ever been cured? And only one of them said maybe one. The rest of them said none of them. And yet the psychiatrists that I am learning from, pretty much every single patient comes out well.
Yeah,
He's not using those methods. He is teaching the psycho-spiritual truth of our human experience to them. And when they understand how the system works, they get better.
Yes,
it's as simple as that, subhanAllah. We do need to kind of wrap it up. It's supposed to be a half-hour session, and we've nearly gone for an hour, subhanAllah, but it is a really important topic. So there's always hope. And this is why we have the We Are All Okay movement, because we need the Muslims across the globe to realize that we are actually okay. The fact that we don't see it means that we're using the gift of thought in an unhealthy way in that moment. And when we shift and we're able to use the gift of thought in a healthy way, we come back to our well-being. And so we are all okay, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said he will never burden any one of us with more than we can bear. And that's our evidence. Subhanallah. Jazakallah khair. Very cool session. Alhamdulillah. I really had no clue how it was going to evolve as a session. I just started with the sharing the case study from the book and thought we'd take it from there. I hope anyone who was listening has at least found some hope. No matter what it is you're experiencing or the people around you are experiencing, there's always hope. The first step is hope. If people are stuck in defeat, then there's a hopelessness. Then they won't believe that there's a way out for them, so they won't look for a way out. So our first step is always hope. After that, then it's the truth of how it works and reliance upon Allah for the outcome. Alhamdulillah. So subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Anything that I said that is correct is from Allah. Any mistakes I've made, please forgive me. I am human, just doing my best I can. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.